most unbelievable escapes and deceptions of World War II. The true stories that sound too crazy to be real. What if I told you that the Allies won D-Day because of a dead homeless man and a fake army? What if I told you that one man escaped from a Nazi prison camp, got recaptured, escaped again, and again, and again, 7 times in total? What if I told you that a magician helped hundreds of Allied soldiers break out of POW camps using doctored Monopoly boards? You'd probably think I was making it up, but every word is true. World War II wasn't just one with tanks and bombs. It was one with deception, audacity, and schemes so outrageous that if you saw them in a movie, you'd say they were unrealistic. Today I'm going to tell you 3 stories from World War II that sound absolutely impossible, but they happened. This is about the corpse that fooled Hitler, the prisoner who never stopped escaping, and the ghost army that changed the course of the war. Let's begin. Part 1. Operation Mincemeat. The corpse that deceived. April 1943. The Allies have a massive problem. They're planning to invade Sicily, the stepping stone to mainland Europe. But there's no way to surprise the Germans. Sicily is the obvious target. Anyone looking at a map can see it. If the Germans reinforce Sicily with troops from Greece and the Balkans, the invasion will be a bloodbath. Tens of thousands of Allied soldiers will die on those beaches. The Allies need the Germans to look the other way. They need a deception so convincing that Hitler himself will believe it. And that's when British intelligence comes up with the most bizarre plan in military history. They're going to use a corpse. The plan. Here's the scheme. They'll obtain a dead body, dress it as a British military officer, plant fake documents on it suggesting the invasion will be in Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily, and dump it off the coast of Spain where German spies will find it. It sounds insane, but the mastermind behind it, Ewan Montague of British Naval Intelligence, believes it will work. First, they need a body. Not just any body. It has to be a recent death. Someone who died in a way that could look like drowning, with no family who will ask questions. They find him in January 1943. Glyndwr Michael, a 34-year-old homeless man from Wales who died from eating rat poison. He has no next of kin. His body is preserved in a morgue. Now comes the incredible part. They have to turn this man into someone else entirely, creating Major Martin. They give him a new identity, Major William Martin, Royal Marines. But it's not enough just to name him. They have to create an entire life. They give him a wallet containing photos of his fiancée, actually a clerk from MI5, love letters from her, ticket stubs from a London theater, a stern letter from his bank about an overdraft, an angry letter from his father, receipts and bills, keys. They put 2 theater tickets in his pocket dated just before his supposed death, showing he was in London recently. They give him an expensive watch and a silver cross. They put cigarettes and matches in his pockets. They even write a letter from his fiancée and wear it in someone's pocket for days, so it looks handled and read multiple times. They're not just creating a cover story. They're creating a human being who never existed. But the most important thing? The documents he's carrying. A briefcase chained to his wrist containing top-secret letters between British generals discussing invasion plans for Greece and Sardinia. They even include casual mentions of Sicily as a diversion, making the deception more believable. The drop, April 30th, 1943. A British submarine surfaces off the coast of Spain, near Huelva. At 4:30 a.m., in complete darkness, Major William Martin is brought on deck. The crew has been told he's an intelligence officer killed in an air crash, and this mission is top secret. They read a brief prayer. Then they slide the body into the water, the briefcase still chained to his wrist. A life jacket keeps him afloat. The submarine disappears beneath the waves. Now they wait. The body washes ashore later that morning. Spanish fishermen find it. They notify authorities. The local Spanish officials notify the Germans as expected. Spain is neutral but friendly to the Nazis. German intelligence photographs every document in that briefcase. They send the images to Berlin. The briefcase is returned to the British, who pretend not to notice it's been opened. And then Hitler takes the bait. The result. Within days, German forces are redeployed. Elite panzer divisions are sent to Greece. The Balkans are reinforced. Rommel himself is dispatched to Greece to prepare defenses. Sicily? The Germans barely reinforce it at all. It's obviously a diversion, they think. July 10th, 1943. Allied forces invade Sicily. They expect fierce resistance. Instead, they encounter a skeleton force. The invasion that should have been a bloodbath becomes a stunning success. The Allies take Sicily in just 38 days, with far fewer casualties than expected, all because of a dead homeless man and a briefcase full of lies. The operation was so successful that it remained classified until 1996. For over 50 years, one of the greatest deceptions in military history was a complete secret. Glinder Michael, the forgotten homeless man, has a gravestone in Spain that reads, William Martin, Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. He died alone and forgotten, but his death saved thousands of lives. Part 2. The Man Who Never Stopped Escaping. Part 2. The Legendary Escapes of Bill the Capture. March 24, 1942. American pilot Bill Ash is flying with the Royal Canadian Air Force. Yes, an American flying for Canada before the U.S. even entered the war officially. He's 23 years old, cocky and fearless. His Spitfire is hit by German flak over France. He bails out, parachutes into a field, and within hours, he's captured by German soldiers. Most prisoners at this point would accept their fate, sit out the war in a POW camp, wait for liberation. Bill Ash looks at his captors and thinks, how do I get out of here? What follows is one of the most audacious stories of defiance in World War II. Bill Ash would attempt to escape 13 times. He would succeed in breaking out 7 times. And he would become such a thorn in the German side that they'd transfer him to the most secure POW camp in Nazi Germany. Let's talk about some of these escapes. Escape attempts. Learning the ropes. His first escape attempt happens during transport. He simply jumps off the truck when guards aren't looking. He's recaptured within hours. Undeterred, he tries again at his first POW camp, Stalag Luft 3. He hides in a cart of garbage being removed from the camp. The guards discover him when they stab the garbage with pitchforks, standard procedure. He's lucky to survive. Third attempt, he disguises himself as a German guard using a homemade uniform. Gets through 2 checkpoints before someone notices his boots are wrong. Each time he's caught, he's thrown in the cooler, solitary confinement, usually 2 weeks. Then he goes right back to planning his next escape. The German guards start to recognize him. Oh, it's the American again. The wooden horse escape. Now here's where it gets creative. Bill and 2 other prisoners, Eric Williams and Michael Codner, come up with an ingenious plan. They build a wooden vaulting horse for exercise. Every day they carry it to the same spot in the yard and do gymnastics over it. What the guards don't know? There's a man inside the hollow horse. While prisoners vault over it, blocking the guards' view, the man inside is digging a tunnel. Every day for 3 months they dig. The tunnel has to go 100 feet to reach beyond the fence. The man inside digs, fills bags with dirt, and when the exercise session ends, prisoners carry the horse and the digger back to the barracks. They're dumping the dirt in their pockets, in the attic, anywhere they can hide it. October 1943. The tunnel is complete. Bill Ash, Eric Williams, and Michael Codner crawl through, emerge outside the camp, and disappear into the night. They make it farther than any of Bill's previous attempts. Days pass. They're moving across Germany, trying to reach Denmark and then Sweden. But they're caught near the Danish border. Back to Stalag Luft 3. The Great Escape Connection. Now, if Stalag Luft 3 sounds familiar, it should. This is the same camp where the Great Escape would happen just a few months later in March 1944, when 76 prisoners escaped through a tunnel named Harry. Bill Ash was involved in planning that escape too. But here's something the movie doesn't tell you. Bill Ash didn't escape that night. He was supposed to be one of the escapees, but the tunnel was discovered before he could get through, and that probably saved his life. Of the 76 men who escaped, 73 were recaptured. Hitler was furious and ordered 50 of them executed, shot in the back of the head and cremated. Bill Ash survived because he didn't make it into the tunnel that night, transferred to Colditz. After the Great Escape Massacre, the Germans decided Bill Ash was too dangerous. He was transferred to Colditz Castle, the escape-proof prison. Colditz was where the Germans sent persistent escapers. It was built on a cliff, surrounded by multiple perimeters, guarded by 3 times as many soldiers as a regular POW camp, and had a recapture rate of 99%. Bill Ash took one look at it and immediately started planning his next escape. He attempted to escape from Colditz 4 more times, once through a tunnel, once by hiding in a mattress being transported out, once by disguising himself as a German officer, once by attempting to climb down the castle walls. All failed, but the audacity never stopped. Bill Ash spent most of World War II either escaping or in solitary confinement for trying to escape. Why? Why risk execution for escaping when as a POW he'd likely survive the war? He said it best himself. "Every moment I'm trying to escape, I'm tying up German resources. Guards watching me, soldiers searching for me, trains delayed to look for escapees. That's my contribution to the war effort." He never made it home during the war. But he never stopped fighting either. Bill Ash survived the war. He lived to age 96, dying in 2014, and he never regretted a single escape attempt. Part 3. The Ghost Army, the greatest magic trick of WW2 January 1944. The U.S. Army creates a special unit unlike anything in military history, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. On paper, it's an engineering unit. In reality, it's an army of artists, sound engineers, actors, and magicians whose job is to convince the Germans they're fighting divisions that don't exist. This unit consists of 1,100 men, their mission to impersonate 30,000 soldiers. To make the German army see tanks where there are none, hear armies where there is silence, and believe invasions are coming from the wrong direction. They would conduct over 20 operations across Europe. They would save an estimated 30,000 American lives, and they would remain classified for 50 years. The tools of deception. So how do you fake an army? Let's start with the inflatable tanks. Yes, inflatable tanks, made of rubber, weighing just 90 pounds, able to be inflated by 4 men in 15 minutes. From the air or at a distance, they looked exactly like real Sherman tanks. They had entire battalions of fake tanks, fake artillery, fake planes, all made of rubber and wood. But visual deception wasn't enough. They needed sound. The Ghost Army brought massive speakers, some weighing 500 pounds, that could project sound for 15 miles. They had recordings of tanks moving, troops marching, equipment being assembled. They'd play these sounds at night, making German scouts think an entire armored division was positioning for attack. Then there was the radio deception. They'd broadcast fake radio chatter, using call signs of real units that were actually miles away. German intelligence would intercept these signals and think entire divisions were in completely wrong locations. And finally, the soldiers themselves acted parts. They'd wear patches from different divisions. They'd visit local towns and bars, talking loudly about their unit and where they might be going next, knowing spies were listening. Operation Viersen. Let me tell you about one of their most successful operations. Operation Viersen, March 1945. The real U.S. Ninth Army is about to cross the Rhine River at Remagen, but they don't want the Germans to know. They need a distraction. The Ghost Army is sent to the town of Viersen, 10 miles north. Their job: convince the Germans that 30,000 troops are about to cross the Rhine at Viersen instead. They arrive at night, within hours. 600 inflatable tanks are deployed, fake artillery positions are set up, loudspeakers start playing sounds of tank movements, radio operators begin broadcasting fake communications, soldiers wearing Ninth Army patches start appearing in town. But here's the brilliant part. They set up fake anti-aircraft batteries and started shooting at German reconnaissance planes. Not to shoot them down, to make sure they survived and reported back what they saw. The Germans took the bait completely. They repositioned units to defend against the Viersen crossing. They moved anti-tank weapons. They prepared for an assault that was never coming. Meanwhile, 10 miles south, the real Ninth Army crossed at Remagen with minimal resistance. The artists who became soldiers. Now here's what makes this unit extraordinary: who they were. Before the war, these men were artists, designers, actors, and sound engineers. The Ghost Army recruited from art schools and advertising agencies. One member was Bill Blass. Yes, the famous fashion designer. Another was Ellsworth Kelly, who became one of America's most celebrated abstract artists. These men weren't trained soldiers. They were creative minds who understood illusion, perspective, and deception, and the Army weaponized their creativity. They kept detailed records of their operations. They painted scenes from the war. They documented everything. But when the war ended, they were ordered to never speak of what they'd done. Their entire service record was classified top secret. Many went home and never told their families what they'd actually done during the war. Some took the secret to their graves. It wasn't until 1996 that the Ghost Army was declassified. The cost and the legacy. The Ghost Army participated in operations from Normandy to the Rhine. They were often within artillery range of German positions. If the Germans had realized they were fakes, they would have been wiped out. But they kept up the deception. Military historians estimate their operations saved somewhere between 15,000 to 30,000 American lives by drawing German forces away from real attacks. Think about that. A unit of artists and sound engineers armed with rubber tanks and speakers saved tens of thousands of lives. Today, there's a documentary about them called The Ghost Army. Their story is finally being told. But here's what strikes me most. These men could have stayed home. They were artists, designers, creatives. They weren't infantry. They weren't pilots. They could have gotten exemptions. Instead, they volunteered to go to war. And they used their art, their creativity, as a weapon. They proved that intelligence and creativity can be just as powerful as tanks and bombs. They were the most unusual unit in American military history, and they were incredibly effective. So what have we learned today? We learned that a homeless man who died forgotten in London helped win one of the most crucial battles of the war, and nobody knew his real name for 50 years. We learned that one man's refusal to accept captivity became an act of resistance that tied up German resources for years. We learned that artists and magicians armed with rubber tanks and speakers helped win the war with the greatest magic trick in history. These stories sound like fiction. They sound like Hollywood movies, but they're real. World War II wasn't just tanks and troops. It was audacity. It was creativity. It was people doing things that seemed impossible because they had no other choice. These stories were classified for decades because they were so valuable that governments wanted to keep the tactics secret for future use. But now we know. Now these incredible people can finally be remembered. Here's what I want you to take away from this. History isn't just about the famous battles you learned in school. The real history, the incredible, unbelievable, stranger-than-fiction history is in these untold stories. The corpse that deceived Hitler, the prisoner who never surrendered, the ghost army that saved thousands. These are the stories that remind us sometimes the most effective weapon isn't the biggest gun. Sometimes it's the most creative mind. If you enjoyed these stories, please like and subscribe. There are thousands more where these came from, and we're going to keep telling them. Until next time, remember, truth is stranger than fiction, and history is full of the most unbelievable truths you've never heard.